No offense, but even the last thing I've expected from my Palestinian father who grew up in like a village in Palestine to say to me is a quote from an American president, which was something that he would repeat all the time, which is the only thing you have to fear is fear itself. Now, this was so random to me because my dad literally did not grow up in America, so the fact that he like knew random quotes from like American presidents was just funny, and I didn't always get what it meant until I got older. And as I've grown, I began to understand the message, which is to just be courageous in your ambitions and your pursuit. And sometimes the only thing holding you back from getting what you want is yourself or your fear. So he always taught us to like not be afraid, and that quote stuck with me throughout my childhood and into my adult years. Like, it impacted how I made decisions. And yeah, it was very random, but very effective. All right, now this is a hot take, but as a Palestinian, I can say that we are a little dramatic. And I'm not talking about the Palestinians in Gaza or in the West Bank, because to be very honest, they are handling their incredibly tragic and horrible situations very well, in my opinion. But I'm talking about myself and people I know over here in America in our privileged little lives. But yeah, we have a tendency to be a little bit dramatic. And maybe you could say this about Arabs in general, I don't know. But my mother was definitely somebody who taught me that you should just let it out. And what I mean by this is, like, it's okay to cry, it's okay to be a little bit emotional. And my mom kind of stood on that. And the way I really learned this from her was I would always ask her, like, Mom, you have such beautiful skin, like, how do you get your skin like that? And she would say in Arabic, it's min ad-dumu'a, which means from all the tears. And it's so on brand for her to say that, because after everything she's endured, like growing up in the West Bank, she's definitely been through a lot. But she approaches it in such a nonchalant, casual way. Like, she would tell me that she wasn't able to go to school for years and that her father was in prison when she was born. Like, she's been through a lot. And just so many things I can't even imagine her going through. But despite it all, she showed up for my siblings and I every single day. Like, she went to work, she would cook, she would clean. And she just did everything and seemed so strong. But under all that strength is seriously the most gentle, loving, and like selfless person. And it makes me emotional sometimes when I talk about it, but she still managed to keep her softness all the while being very strong, and I think that's so admirable. But yeah, she showed us that, like, you know, it's okay to be a little bit emotional sometimes. And this is a controversial take because, like, I know plenty of people who just don't believe in that, but my mom advocated for letting it out, and I definitely agree with her, and I definitely follow that lifestyle because you should be able to express your emotions. And the thing is, her skin is actually really good, so maybe she is onto something there. Now, it's crazy that people try to paint Palestinians as these like violent, hateful people, but I know most Palestinians or even Arabs or Muslims have also grown up being taught to be kind to all beings. Now, both my parents and my grandmother taught me this with both their words and their actions. For example, my family has a cat, and one day that cat was really sick and it wasn't drinking any water. And my mom really didn't like this cat. Like, she didn't want us to have a cat, but she just dealt with it because we wanted one. And, you know, this cat was like not able to drink, but she held him anyway, and she kind of like wet a cloth and started to drip it on his face so that when he licked his face, he would drink water, because he refused to drink. Like, he was just too weak to drink from a bowl. So that's just like, it was like normal for her. Like, she showed us, like, this is what you do when a creature is in need. And my grandma was the same exact way. Like, she hated cats. Like, she hated animals in general. Like, she didn't want them in her house, in her backyard. And this woman lives in Palestine. Like, she's never been to America. She doesn't speak a word of English. And she, despite that, would always throw her bones, like, from dinner outside of her backyard. And she does it so routinely that cats know exactly what time to wait outside her backyard so that they can, you know, get her scraps from dinner. And even though she's not necessarily a fan of these animals, like, she just feels obligated or compelled to give to them because she knows that they're hungry and she has scraps to give. So definitely something that my Palestinian family taught me was to just be kind to all creatures, whether you like them or not. Now, in addition to being kind to all creatures, my parents also taught my siblings and I to be tolerant of all beings. And they would tell us this, but they more effectively showed us this with their actions. And I'll never forget when this happened, but one time we were in Brooklyn doing something as a family, and my parents were hungry and they wanted falafel. And the only falafel store that was nearby was this Jewish store, and it sold falafel, and it was like a restaurant. And my parents took my siblings and I, who were quite young at the time, and they just took us to sit in this Jewish falafel restaurant, surrounded by nothing but Orthodox Jewish people, okay? And like my mom wears hijab and my dad looks very Arab, but they sat us down. We got a bunch of stares, but they literally didn't care, and they sent such a strong message to us without even saying a word, which was, even though we are Palestinian and we are well aware of what's happening over there, it doesn't change the fact that we, you know, have to hate anyone just because of their religion. And that's something that they verbally would tell us. And it's not like we were ignorant about what was happening in Palestine. We were very much educated. We visited many times. We saw for ourselves. But they never pushed this ideology that you should hate people because of their religion, whether it's Jewish people, Christian people, or anyone who like wasn't like us. They very much taught us, like, you know, if you're gonna judge somebody, do it based on their actions. And that kind of like just stuck by all of us. I think my siblings and I are all very much similar in that regard. And my parents also really taught us that like you really only should not like somebody or just treat somebody based on how they treat you, right? So the only reason why you shouldn't be kind or tolerant to someone is if they're not tolerant to you. But they didn't even really push that much, because there were times when people were mean or intolerant to them, and they were either just like kind or nice back, or they just like kept it pushing. So those were some very valuable lessons that my parents taught us. Okay, now that's pretty much it. I'd be happy to do something like this again in the future. If you guys enjoyed it, let me know in the comments. I'm pretty much done. I'm just gonna put a lippy, some chapstick right now. And yeah, guys, hope you enjoyed this. This is something new that I'm trying, just to kind of give you guys an idea more about who I am. I figured I'd introduce that to my channel. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.